Thank you so much for keeping us company until now. Of course, today it's Tuesday, talking about matters health. And I know that most of you have gone to hospitals, be it public and private hospitals, to seek for treatment. But at times you get medication that is not intended for the disease that you're suffering from. And it comes with side effects. Probably you're suffering from malaria. You go there, you're given other drugs that are not meant for malaria. And you come home and you start realizing that you're developing certain symptoms or reacting to the medicine that you're given. And this is what you want to talk about today. Share with us your experience. We're talking about the effects of misdiagnosis and what can be done to just make sure that we fight this menace in the society. We want to hear your experiences, the hospitals that, is there a time that you've gone to a hospital and you've been misdiagnosed and you've discovered that you're given treatment that is not meant for what you're suffering from? Share with us that experience at Safin_Aching at GM Kenya KBC. The hashtag is GMKKBC. We want to hear that. Of course, joining me in studio to put this topic into perspective, I'm having officials from the Association of Kenya Medical Laboratories, scientific officers. Did I get it right?
Yes.
Wow, it's such a long name. I'm having Safari Kithi, yes, who is the first national chairperson of that specific organization, and then Aglin Chelimo, the second vice chairperson. Thank you so much for joining me this morning to talk to us about misdiagnosis, something that happens a lot in the society. And probably just to start the conversation by, defining what a misdiagnosis is. And this one I would give it to you, Chelimo.
Thank you so much, Safi. Misdiagnosis means that when someone visits the hospital and is not feeling well and a test is done, then the report comes out and it is not the actual results of that particular patient. For example, a patient could be suffering from malaria, but the diagnosis does not come out exactly as malaria. It may come out as typhoid. So the consequences is that this patient will receive the wrong treatment, and management of the underlying problem will be mismanaged, and it means the patient will get other conditions or complications, like the malaria being in the system may give this patient to get other complications like anemia, that is a reduced amount of hemoglobin in the blood. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So a case where you have a particular disease and then the test is done, but the results come out and it's not what you were trying to test, and then the patient ends up being given the wrong kind of medication. That is what you're saying is known as misdiagnosis. Of course, it's something, like I said, that happens a lot. But coming to you, Safari, yes, in terms of statistics, like on an average, how common is this? How frequent does it happen in our hospitals?
Well, I want first of all to highlight that diagnosis is usually arrived at in 3 levels. Mm-hmm. The clinician sees a patient. A patient will give the symptoms, and the clinician will make a provisional diagnosis. But there is a level where the clinician will want to confirm. And one of the ways is laboratory testing. The other one could be radiography, where they will go to have X-ray scans and all that. Now, the level of misdiagnosis in terms of statistics, we will give it around, the frequency, we will give it around 10%. Mm-hmm. It happens, but at different levels. Mm-hmm. As I said, among the 3 levels of diagnosis. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, it's good that you've highlighted that as well, because would you say that other cases of misdiagnosis are caused by the patients themselves, because the patients are given the chance to actually say what they're going through, and it is based on that information that the clinician starts the process of identifying what the problem is and the right treatment? What can you say about that?
Yes, you are right. Mm-hmm. Misdiagnosis can be caused at all those levels by the patient, by the clinician, by the radiographer, by the laboratory technologists, mm-hmm, in all those levels.
In all those levels.
It is possible.
Take us through that. So that we can be able to know, as we talk about the causes of misdiagnosis now, take us through those. How does it happen from all those different levels, so that we know where the problem is coming from before we can get to know how to fix it?
Okay, I'll start with the clinician level. at the clinician level, the patient is supposed to present all the symptoms, the clinical symptoms. And at times, depending on the type of clinician they have found, some patients will not want to divulge some information. So that limits the clinician from arriving to the correct diagnosis. For example, this is a schoolgirl who has gone. The schoolgirl knows that she is pregnant from the symptoms she's getting, but because she's in school, she doesn't want to divulge some information like all the symptoms, whether she's vomiting, the early morning sickness, and all those symptoms, because her aim is to hide.
Yeah.
All right? So the clinician will not be able to diagnose, to suspect that there could be pregnancy, and therefore refer that patient to the laboratory. That is one scenario, and all those symptoms, because her aim is to hide.
Yeah.
All right? So the clinician will not be able to diagnose, to suspect that there could be pregnancy, and therefore refer that patient to the laboratory. That is one scenario. There are many scenarios, especially in the clinical rooms, where confidentiality, if there is no enough space, maybe we have facilities where the clinician is seeing a patient, and maybe two clinicians are seeing two patients in the same room. Some of the patients will not divulge because they would not want the next patient to hear what some of the conditions. When we go to the level of the laboratory now, in terms of the equipment, in terms of the reagents, in terms of the human resource, if all these are not tied up well, there is a possibility of arriving to a misdiagnosis. When we go to radiography, similar. If the radiography department is not well equipped, we are likely not to get the correct diagnosis, because you go to a place where maybe they do not have the right equipment to do CT scan. Of course, what they will produce will not be the quality, and therefore that will make the clinician not to get the correct diagnosis. Yes. Okay,
very important there. And also, coming to your Glenn, in your own experience as well, he's touched on the issue of the patient. Under certain circumstances, they might not be able to, give all the information that is required to make a diagnosis. But look at it this way: there are others who come, they already predetermined that they have this particular disease and they want treatment for that. What do you do as a person when a patient walks into the health facility and they say, I have malaria and I want malaria drugs? That happens very, very commonly. What do you do?
Yeah, at that stage, it is upon the clinicians to make sure that they have sent the patient to the laboratories so that they can confirm whether it is malaria or not.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. So let's also look at the issue of, we're talking about the effects of misdiagnosis happening at different levels, beginning from the patient all the way to the laboratory and all that. In case there is a misdiagnosis, then what is the dire effect that we are looking at here, Safari?
Okay. The consequences of misdiagnosis are dire, because sometimes there may be some mild effects, depending on the conditions, because like we have so many diseases that present with common symptoms. For example, like she mentioned, fever may be caused by many diseases like malaria, typhoid, and all that. So it depends. Some diseases may not cause, their misdiagnosis may not cause great effects, but there are some that can cause instant death. For example, in the laboratory, we usually test blood sugar for the patients who are suspected to be diabetic. And the declaration of a blood sugar level makes a clinician determine the type of treatment they will give. So a misdiagnosis of hypoglycemia, which is low blood sugar levels, we will want to make the clinician manage the patient by wanting to increase the sugar levels. And if it was a misdiagnosis and the sugar levels were high, adding more sugar levels to that patient may likely cause death. All right?
True.
So the effects are really far-reaching depending on how the misdiagnosis was and what was the condition.
What was the condition that was being treated. Glenn, what are some of the most common diseases that are misdiagnosed in the current setup? Certain diseases in the society that you think these are the diseases to look out for that people tend to misunderstand, tend to mistest and all that?
Most of the time, there are these diseases which have clinical symptoms which are similar. For example, when somebody has malaria, typhoid, usually the clinical symptoms are almost similar. So those are some of the diseases which can cause misdiagnosis in the patient. Yeah.
What about the hospitals that may not have the privilege of having a laboratory? Like you go way into the rural areas, we have certain health facilities that do not have the enough, equipments and the relevant facilities that are needed. What can you say about such kind of environments, and also what can be done to make sure that patients there get the right kind of medication?
Thank you for bringing that up. This is the gist of the matter, actually, because we've moved in, laboratory, medicine generally is dynamic. And where medicine was a few years ago is not where it is now. Even an individual who was trained about 10 years ago, without any continuous professional development, is irrelevant by now.
Okay.
And the gist of the matter is there should be always improvement in the facilities in terms of human resource, in terms of the diagnostic facilities. So at this time, at this point in time, we are expecting that majority of the health facilities that are proclaiming to be giving quality care to patients should have laboratories.
Should have laboratories.
Yes.
What is the state now? Looking from where you sit, you look at the state of our laboratories and the state of our health facilities. What would you say? Where are we in terms of, where we need to be?
I believe we are somewhere about 60%, because we have those laboratories. Many, in fact, many since devolution, many counties have been working hard to try and have laboratories in their health facilities. However, we are not yet there, because even those kind of laboratories that are being set up are not meeting the international standards.
Do they have the equipments? Are the equipments, in good condition, or they've overstayed on the shelf? Or do they have the right equipments that needs to be there, those laboratories?
Some laboratories have, and some laboratories do not have. I'm saying we are somewhere because those laboratories that are new, most of them you will find they have new equipment. But what kind of quality diagnosis can those equipment produce? So we are saying that we have a regulator in the laboratory profession who is supposed to regulate even the type of equipment that is supposed to go to the facilities. So how is this regulation being done? We have equipment that when it is bought and it is installed in these health facilities, within a very short time, the equipment goes out of service. So we are saying that if we are to arrive to proper diagnosis in the laboratories, then let's have the right equipment being installed, equipment that can pass the test of time, equipment that can be validated and be verified when it lands into the laboratory, that it is able to produce the results the manufacturer of that equipment proclaims is able to produce. All right? So currently the situation is not 100%.
Okay.
So we are saying as an association that there is need for the laboratory professionals to be given a chance to be able to spearhead the issues of the type of equipment they want to use, and verify and validate this equipment and ensure that really they are going to produce the correct diagnosis.
Adeline, he mentioned something that I would want just to talk about a bit. The human capacity, the people that work in the laboratories. He said that there is need to, constantly update yourself in terms of knowledge, in terms of, because things are changing and the trends are coming in every day. Probably tell us, what does it take for one to identify that this one actually is a qualified person to be in the laboratory? This one is the right kind of a laboratory officer that needs to be in this health facility. What are some of the things that you're looking at?
Yeah, we are looking at the human resource staff who are qualified and from recognized colleges and universities. and they have already been given that license to practice. So those are the type of technologists who are supposed to work in these labs. And once they are employed, the institution is supposed to develop them on the bench level and even outside the bench level. That means they go back to school and upgrade their learning skills. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true, because diseases keep
Changing.
viruses keep, you know, changing and mutating, and on all that. And also we talk about the issue of certain hospitals. You'd find that there is just a volunteer, somebody working in the laboratory there, and they may not even have the necessary skills and the necessary capacity to know how to, you know, do the test and give the relevant reports. And I would also want to talk about, we are talking about misdiagnosis today, but there are other things that also come and relate with this. There is the issue of non-diagnosis, that, you know, the patient is not, you know, the diagnosis is not made at all, probably because they didn't give the right kind of, you know, information or that. Or there is the issue of also delayed diagnosis. It takes a while, like say for cases of cancer patients, this happens a lot. That for the first time you went into the health facility and you were given drugs for a different disease. Then you went the second time, the third time. By the time they discover this is cancer, it's in level 4. And there is nothing much that can be done about it. Also talk to us about how these three relate: the non-diagnosis, the misdiagnosis, and the delayed diagnosis.
Okay. Talking about non-diagnosis, I think non-diagnosis usually happens due to either lack of diagnostic facilities in a particular health facility where the client has gone to seek services. For example, we go to a dispensary, there is no laboratory, there is no radiography, and then the clinician would want to utilize those diagnostic facilities to be able to arrive to a diagnosis. The patient may be referred to go to places where these facilities are available. The patient may not be able to go. All right? That leads to misdiagnosis, to non-diagnosis, because the patient will eventually maybe live with painkillers from that hospital, just maybe to dissuade the pain, and then will not go any further because of the poor populations and all that. That can happen. However, we are saying that if you are a patient and you go to a facility where the diagnosis is not able to be concluded, kindly, when the clinician refers you to a place to go for confirmation, kindly try your level best to have this done. So lack of facilities, and because we have the national government and the county government, we are requesting the both the national government and the county governments, and the county governments has a big stake in this, to ensure that every health facility is equipped with diagnostic facilities. This will help our populations so much.
It will. And sorry for that, you were just about to say something?
Yes, I was going now to misdiagnosis and delayed diagnosis.
Okay, fine. Just
I was saying that in terms of misdiagnosis, misdiagnosis, I said, comes in 3 levels. Now, every Kenyan has the responsibility, especially if you become sick, to volunteer all the information you have about your condition to the clinician. This will help the clinician arrive to the correct diagnosis. The other thing is about the laboratory diagnosis. We are requesting that the county governments who are handling the health department now should be able to ensure that they have equipped the laboratories with the right and modern equipment. Human resource, when they are employing, when they are given the authority to employ, they should ensure that they have employed the right numbers, because we have shortages of staff.
True.
They should ensure that they have employed the qualified staff, meaning they should have been registered with KMLTB, which is our regulator. They should be people who have the right papers, who have the right qualifications, and people who can be able to learn and change with times. Because I have told you, laboratory medicine is dynamic. And therefore, if somebody is employed and is not able to embrace change, that will not be helpful. So when they are carrying out the interviews to employ, these are the aspects they should look. at. And I'm requesting that if they are employing laboratory people, they should ensure that in that panel of employment, there should be laboratory individuals who will be able to vet all this. Because if I take you to a panel and you are supposed to interview somebody who is being employed to work in the laboratory in a hospital, you will not know the real technical issues, isn't it? So we need to have technical people in those panels to be able to spearhead the issues of quality.
Because they're the ones who know who they're looking for.
Know. So they can be able to pick the qualities of a laboratorian who will be employed in that place. But most of the county public service boards, they do not. They do not invite the laboratorians to really address the technical aspects. So this is happening and may be contributory to laboratory misdiagnosis. And then the laboratory medicine, through the association and our regulator, have gone further to ensure that our laboratories in this country meet international standards through accreditation process. This year only, we have had a total of about 10 labs that have been undergoing stepwise, have gone further to ensure that our laboratories in this country meet international standards through accreditation process. This year only, we have had a total of about 10 labs that have been undergoing stepwise steps towards accreditation for a period, and this year they got accreditation, meaning they are able to meet the international standards. So possible. If all laboratories can be able to put through that process and ensure they meet international standards, then we will be we will have medical tourism like the way India is. True. Yes. So misdiagnosis can be addressed that way. Delayed diagnosis. Delayed diagnosis can be contributed by many factors, right from the patient to the clinician to the state of infrastructure. All right. So talking about cancer. Cancer is diagnosed easily by routine screening. And routine screening is dependent on the cooperation by the patient themselves. Because the patient is supposed to do routine screening. Some of the routine screening methods are even self-oriented. The patient, the client is able to be advised by the clinician. When you do this and you feel this, you are able to, like for the way ladies are usually advised about breast cancer. And
it's October, by the way. It's October, the breast cancer awareness month. Yeah, so it's good that you do that routine, you know, check for yourself.
Yes, it is being done. And some people, we have cervical cancer that is usually being screened to women. And you will hear some ladies saying, no, me, I cannot go to have it done. Because they know the process.
It's intrusive.
And it is intrusive when
but
they do
there were efforts to come up with a way that is less, that somebody can do it on their own. I don't know how far that went.
Those are in process. And we really hope we are going to make breakthroughs to have those available because we know the challenges our clients have. So clients who will shy away from going for those methods will be contributing to their own delayed diagnosis. Infrastructure, lack of the required infrastructure
can cause that.
And you've had people even going to outside the country to get the right infrastructure for diagnosis. So if a lot of the good investment can be done in the health sector to ensure that infrastructure for the correct diagnosis, especially of cancer, is available. This will help.
This will help. Yes. We'll be coming back to talk about the legal framework in a short while, because if you discover that you've been misdiagnosed, now what next? What step do you take as a patient? Do you have rights? Can you sue the hospital and all that? That is coming up in a short while. But getting to you, Glenn, there's also cases in schools, and we've had a number of students have died after, you know, somebody is sick in school, they're just given painkillers. By the time this kid is sent home for the parents, they're trying to rescue the situation. It's already too late. As a word of advice, you know, what can you say so that we can improve the state of, you know, the health facilities offered in our schools as well to avoid cases of misdiagnosis and delayed diagnosis?
Thank you, Safia. I think the issue of students dying in the schools, because there is a delayed diagnosis. So what happens in most of the schools, they have dispensaries. And I think it is a high time they should also have full-fledged hospital, whereby when a student is not feeling well, they should be investigated for what they are suffering from, instead of giving the first aid.
And painkillers.
And painkillers.
For every disease.
Yeah, for every disease. So that they are fully diagnosed in the initial stage, and management is initiated immediately.
Okay.
Yeah, to avoid complications.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very quickly, Safari, the legal framework. After I have discovered that I have been misdiagnosed, what can I do in terms of, you know, getting my rights, getting compensation, whatever? What can I do as a patient?
Okay, thank you for that. I will start with the role of the patient themselves. In most of the hospitals, it is a requirement that they should display their service charter. So I'm not sure whether most of the patients read these service charters. The service charter usually has a section that has patient's rights. It is important that when you go to a hospital, look at that service charter and read
But you're sick.
what your rights are. That is important. Okay, you may be sick, but you will be sick. But of course, as you are making the queue, those patient rights are usually displayed in a place where, as you are waiting for the service, you are able to read, unless you are very sick.
Okay.
And we are saying that is one. The other thing is, in this country, we have laws that govern health. And one of the laws is the Kenya Medical Laboratory Technicians and Technologists Act number 10 of 1999. This is a law that is for implementation. So laboratory misdiagnosis is usually well addressed on the steps an individual is supposed to take in that law. However, just to give a glimpse of the details that are in there, is that a patient has the right to sue a medical personnel for misdiagnosis.
So it's your right as a patient.
It is your right as a patient to get the right diagnosis, and you have the right to sue. You can be able to get a legal interpretation of the various laws that govern health. We have various acts that are in existence. I have quoted the KMHB Act. We have the Public Health Act. There are many acts that you can you can get legal interpretation of, depending on what kind of, at what level has the misdiagnosis happened. Yes.
And of course, it's always good also, sometimes they advise that you look for second opinion. Like you go to one hospital, you're told this. It's always advisable for second opinion, especially for those very serious kind of diseases. And what about cases where a patient discovers, like, certain symptoms of misdiagnosis would not happen immediately? You know, you've been given this drug, but it will take like a year or two before you start realizing something different in your system. What is done there in terms of law? How can you prove that it is this hospital, this medicine?
All types of legal steps that an individual wants to take towards a misdiagnosis need to be evidenced. Okay. There should be evidence. So therefore, you need to take track of your movements in all the hospitals that you have been, in order to get all the information that this happened at a particular time. So what I'm experiencing is it related to what happened in that particular hospital? And therefore, I know this is what tires most of the patients when they are following the legal processes. But you know, that is the law. And processes to do with law are usually lengthy. And therefore, it is up to the individuals to try as much as possible to trace where things may have happened that are related to the side effects that they are experiencing at that particular time. Yes.
Thank you so much for that. Just to appreciate our viewers here, Ben Kimanzi, you're saying you've never been misdiagnosed, fortunate for you, but you are liking the program, following very closely, learning a lot. Thank you so much, Ben Kimanzi, for that, and thank you for everything. And as we move on, probably, again, what are you doing in terms of, you know, making sure that we curb this menace in the society? Are there plans, are there things that are happening that we can look forward to make sure that this is, you know, solved in the near future?
Yes, the issues which us as the association is looking at is to have the correct human resource to do the diagnosis, and also the improvement of the laboratories to have the correct machines for the for diagnosis in the laboratories, and also standardize the methods so that at the end of the day, whatever is produced in these equipments is exactly what depicts what the patient is suffering from. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And there was also a plan to, bring all the laboratory officers together and share information on research. That was something you were sharing with me earlier, Safari.
Yes, thank you so much for bringing this up. This has been a routine for continuous professional development, which is a requirement for annual practicing licensing.
Okay.
The Association of Kenya Medical Laboratory Scientific Officers, AKAMULSO, usually organizes annual scientific conferences. The annual scientific conferences is usually a forum for any studies that have been carried related to laboratory medicine in the country to be presented, the outcomes of those studies. And this year, the annual scientific conference will take place in Kisumu City at Acacia Premier Hotel, beginning on 11th of October to 14th of October. For 4 days, the laboratorians and other scientists will be able to showcase the studies that they have been doing all along and presenting the outcomes. It is a forum where whoever is presenting their studies is able to be given more ideas to further their studies, and maybe to be given corrective measures so that there is conclusion to those studies. We are taking this opportunity to invite all people who are interested in medical matters to converge in that hotel on 11th to 14th to be able to witness this.
Okay.
That is one forum. We usually also have other forums that we usually share. We have magazines that we usually share the outcomes of studies that are done without waiting for the whole year. This is an annual event. So it's not that we just only wait for a whole year to be able to share the findings that we come up with in the laboratories. We are able to share on a continuous basis.
Okay.
All this.
Okay, thank you for that, Safari. Aglin, there's also this trend that in as much as we are advocating for our health, practitioners to be qualified, to be skilled and all that, that can happen. But after that, they are not fully compensated. And we look at a situation where most of them, travel abroad for greener pastures after all that training and all that. We've seen that a lot. And then we end up having shortage right here in our country. What can you say about that? What do we need to do different this time?
Yeah, we need to motivate the health workers who are actually qualified, and by motivating means paying them well so that they can be able to hold to the job they have, and also be able to do it well to their best. Because one of the reasons why they are going out of this country and look for greener pastures, because they are not paid well. Yeah, but if they are well paid and they are motivated even to go and even learn more about the new technologies in the field, then they will be able to be retained.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And talking about motivation, I want also to add a few issues that usually arise in the medical profession. Working hours. Working hours, if the human resource is increased and then the working hours are well distributed, this can lead to, because when the medical professionals move out for greener pastures, they are looking at these issues, working hours, what type of motivation is available, where I'm going, in terms of the pay, in terms of professional development, what chances do I have to further my professionalism? You look at situations in the country, in some countries, including Kenya, where we have some supervisors who prohibit the medical professionals from furthering their studies, because they know when they go back to school, they will create some shortages.
Yeah, yeah.
So we are requesting that when somebody wants to further their studies, let them be allowed.
It's for the benefit
It's
of...
for the benefit of the country. And therefore, these are some of the things that when somebody gets difficulty in, decides to go for greener pastures. So if that type of motivation can be enhanced, that will retain our medical professionals in the country.
Okay,
Yes.
Thank you for that. It's an eye-opener there. Also talking about one issue that I would want us to share on this platform, one of our viewers is asking if you can quickly just tell us a bit about some of the rights of a patient when they visit a health facility. I believe that's very important.
It is.
As a patient, what's my right?
It is very important. The patients usually have several rights. I will just highlight only a few. That the patient has the right to select the clinician who will attend to them. Amongst the available clinicians,
Wow.
the patient has
didn't
the
know
right.
that.
Yes,
I just
and
know
it
that
is usually displayed.
the one who is on duty and it's
All
a
right,
must.
because of shortages in the Kenyan situation,
Yeah.
sometimes you are forced to go to the clinician who is available.
Yeah.
But usually the prohibition is, do you know the clinicians? You go to a hospital. If you land to Aga Khan hospital right now, do you know the clinicians who are on duty at that particular time? To say, I will want the clinician called so and so.
Okay.
Many times you want that clinician and that clinician is not on duty.
Okay.
So we are saying you have the right to sell. If you are able to, then you have the right to sell. Do you know the clinicians who are on duty at that particular time? To say, I will want the clinician called so and so.
Okay.
Many times you want that clinician and that clinician is not on duty.
Okay.
So we are saying you have the right to sell. If you are able to, then you have the right to select that clinician to attend to you.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
The patient has the right to be given the correct services. For example, a patient has the right to go to a clinician and tell the clinician, fine, I have given you these symptoms, but before you treat me, I want to undergo laboratory investigation.
Okay.
And patients are demanding that now. So it is the patient's right to say, before you treat me, let me be done ABCD for you to really tell me what you are treating me for.
Okay.
All right. The patient has the right to be listened to. For example, in terms of communication and raising complaints, patients have the right to have their complaints addressed immediately they have problems with. It is their right. And usually, in any patient service charter, will have the contacts of the contact person. So in case you are getting any problems, this is the person you should contact. So that is part of their rights.
Okay.
That is just a highlight
Of some of the rights.
Of some of the rights.
That
There are
you
many.
need to know.
I can also add
okay,
one.
okay.
The patient has a right of their results or their diagnosis who to give to. If they want to have it themselves alone, then you don't have to tell other people.
Other people.
Yeah, so they have their right, to tell you who they are supposed to know what they are suffering from. Yeah.
But is it possible, all these rights you're telling us today, is it possible considering our situation in hospitals? You know, you go there and the ratio of the patients that this person has to attend to is just too huge, and the patient has a complaint. Who do they go to? And, you know, there's 100 patients, one doctor, for example, in a day. I mean, is it really possible? And the room is also so small, and you're here, you have a very complicated disease. You want to explain yourself, but there are other people, again, lining up there and hearing what you're saying, and you're being told, hurry up, you know, like you can see we have so many people. Is it really possible today?
Well, currently, it is possible in some institutions, and it is not possible in most institutions. That is why we are requesting that there is need to invest in health. There is need to expand infrastructure so that we create that availability for the patients to be able to express themselves with a lot of confidence that what I'm raising here will be confidential between me and the clinician. That is important.
Okay.
However, with those limitations, still it is possible to exercise some of the rights. It is possible because a patient has the. It is possible for a patient to say, "Me, I will wait for as long as I wait. As long as when I go to see that clinician, it will be me and the clinician alone." That is their right.
Okay.
They can't demand that.
Okay.
However, still, we have the ability to mitigate that in terms of the human resource, because those long queues are there because of shortage of human resource. If we had 10 rooms, those patients will not be queuing there. But we have only 2 rooms with 2 clinicians seeing the patients, a multitude of patients. So that is usually a challenge. So we need to invest in health, address the human resource, address infrastructure. We will be able to exercise those rights. Yes.
Okay, very important there. Also the issue of, let's talk a bit about, some of the cases that we've had before. People want to be tested, people want the laboratory services, but the nature in which it is done, if you know what I mean, it's a bit intrusive to some extent. What is being done right now currently, if there is any effort to make sure that, these tests are done in a different way, like you're given that small bottle to, some people would avoid going to the lab because of certain, conservation issues.
Okay, thank you. Some of the techniques that are used for diagnosis in hospitals are intrusive.
Yeah.
And studies are always carried out. As I told you, medicine is dynamic, to try as much as possible to avoid those techniques that are making the patients to avoid going for the diagnosis. However, there are some things that still must be carried out the way they are, because we've not had alternatives. However, it is still important. I think most important is to explain to the client that at this particular point in time, we do not have an alternative to this technique that we are going to use. However, with this technique, these are the benefits of this technique. These are the things that you may likely feel uncomfortable about. Once you explain all this to the patient, I think that patient cannot shy away from wanting to get those services. The only problem is that some of the medical personnel do not take these steps stepwise to the client before attempting to do those procedures. Some of the clinicians will just say, lie here, remove your clothes, let me examine you, without explaining that I will want to examine you. So to do that, this is what you are going to do. You will lie on this couch, you will remove your clothes, this is what I will do to you. All right? Before you subject the client to that. So I think it depends on
the person,
on the individual who is attending to that client. And I will, at this juncture, request the medical personnel, please interact with your patient. Explain what you are going to do to that. Even in the laboratory, before I insert that needle and syringe to you to collect that blood, I need to explain. I have to talk to you and explain. I have even to not lie to you that it's not painful. No, I have to tell you, you will feel like some slight pain.
They say it's not painful.
That is really not good customer relation. You need to explain to the client, you will feel some little pain when I'm injecting the needle, you will feel some little pain when I'm removing the needle, but this is a procedure, there is no other alternative way of me collecting the blood, and I need this blood specimen to diagnose, to arrive to diagnosis. Once you have explained by the way, clients, the patients are usually very cooperative. The moment you explain to that, they will say, Doctor, I am ready. All right?
Yeah, because I get what you're saying. Like, once the patient understands the benefit and how it's going to be done, if you know as a person that this thing is going to be very intrusive, you need to prepare your patient for that. Then they are going to be very comfortable while at it. That's very important. As we're about to bring this conversation to a close, probably, Aglene, as an advice to, the lab officers, what are some of the things that they need to make sure they're really careful to make sure that the report that they will give is the right one, so that to avoid cases of, mishap's here and there and the wrong kind of diagnosis being given?
Yeah, I would only tell the lab technologists and lab scientists who are in the field, who are practicing, when they are dealing with the patients, they have to have the patient as the first thing. They put them first in everything, so that whatever procedure they are going to carry on in this patient, they should explain to the patient properly to understand, and also the procedures, we call them pre-analytic procedures, and analytic procedures, they should follow the standard operating procedures in doing all these things, so that at the end of the day, they are able to give results which reflect the conditions of these patients, and also to adhere to the ethics in the medical field, in the laboratory. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much for your time, guys. But just before we bring this conversation to a close, I would give you a chance to give us your final words on the conversation we've had. We've learned a lot, misdiagnosis, and you know how it happens and what needs to be done. Your closing remarks, Safari.
Yes, thank you so much. My closing remarks would be, let's invest in health. Both the national government and the county governments have a big role to do this. Let us invest in health. Let us not see the budget towards health as being huge. Health is demanding. For us to be able to avoid the scenarios of misdiagnosis, investment in health in terms of human resource, equipment, and all the infrastructure is very important.
It's very important.
Yes.
Glenn?
Yeah, I would also say that we should invest so much on the human resource, because when we have enough human resource, we'll be able to deliver services on time and also accurately. And also we should make sure that the equipments we are using are well standardized, and all our staff are well trained to handle these equipments, so that we avoid the issue of misdiagnosis. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, guys, for joining me this morning. And as a patient, remember that you give all the information that you need to give in as far as the symptoms that you're experiencing are concerned, to help the person attending to you be able to establish what exactly you're suffering from. And in case you realize you're misdiagnosed, you have a right to sue, and you have a right as a patient to go and, you know, just file your complaint concerning that. As one person says, health by choice, not by might. It's not about how much you can afford. Health is a very critical thing. You can spend on that because your life depends on it. My name is Safina Chengouma. It's been a pleasure doing this. Good Morning Kenya continues, but first up, People Like Us is up next.
A naturopath is a health practitioner who applies natural therapies to cure different diseases. Meet Dr. Richard Saningo, a naturopathic doctor who have been in this profession for over 20 years.
A naturopath is a general physician. It's a physician that deals with general disease. So naturopathy is a line of medicine that is holistic and deals with almost everything.
And how does he go about his job?
This machine, we use it to deal with people with fibroids, tumors, cancers, people who also have cysts. And it's excellent. It's excellent in taking out and changing the health of the person. It's very simple. It uses far infrared. It's a therapeutic light, and so it does not have any side effect. All you feel is a little heat. It's a little warm, but the penetrative power of it has got its healing properties. So this is another fine infrared generator, same spectrum basically, and it's also timed and computerized, and the patient, due to the fact that it's mobile, you can move it depending on where the patient is aiming.
There are few educated naturopath practitioners, which comes along with a lot of mistrust from those seeking treatment.
It's just that we do not have enough professionals nationally, or in every little town you may not necessarily have a naturopath in every city or in every town or in every county, so to speak. So it's a question of training.
However, naturopathic doctors are recently making a headway in the country as a result of training and therefore bringing less expenses but more alternatives.
Alternative medicine is incorporated in higher institutions of learning. It is now probably creeping into some of the universities. I'm not sure if you can get a degree of naturopathy in this country yet. But I'm not sure you can get any doctorate of naturopathy in this country yet, let alone certification of herbal practice. But I think we're getting there. People are wanting to know more. Where can I get an education that leans